Okay, it's 7 minutes after 7. I'd like to welcome everybody to our Planning Commission meeting tonight. It's Wednesday, May 17th, 2023. Present are Commissioner Severn Johnson, Larry Henry, Lori Thomas, John Stout, and myself, Wayne Franson. Larry, would you offer an invocation? And Lori, would you lead us in the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Neighbors and friends. Grateful for this community, grateful for our country, all who serve. Pray that we might be safe. We say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Thank you. If everybody turn their mics on, just keep them on. It helps with the recording, the loudness of it. Any public comment from anyone? Is anybody zoomed in there? Anybody present for public comment? So, okay. We'll close the public comment portion. Next item of business is approval of the April 19, 2023 Planning Commission minutes. I made a couple errors on it, but you all corrected me and got them corrected and sent out a new copy. So, are there any further changes that need to be made? If not, we entertain a motion to approve those.
Also move that we approve.
Okay, Severn.
I'll second it.
Motion to approve it. John, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is a lot combination. I gave you a copy of the application that Summit Creek has filled out. Ben, why don't you take just a minute and walk us through what you want to do here?
So there's two lots in Plat C, I believe it is, that lots 3 and 4, where we were going to include part of our amenity upgrades, where our plan is to put a tennis court, and the tennis court would span both of those lots. And so at the city's recommendation to combine those lots is why we're doing that, just so that it's one lot with the tennis court on it, as opposed to a tennis court going over the boundary of two adjacent lots.
You own lot 2 also?
Uh-huh.
Why don't you combine 2 and 3 and 4?
Because the tennis court's not on it. I don't know. We just didn't.
3 and 4 were going to be residential lots.
They were
In the
at one.
beginning,
Yeah.
so
Right.
that's the reason they were separated from 2, but they've changed their planning
Yeah.
of it and want to combine those as part of the amenity area.
Right. And they're all part of the HOA. Oh, anyways, so
No zone change or anything.
no
just-
zone change.
And this is one of those lots that we did last month too, where it's just a lot line adjustment and we're taking that lot line out
Right.
between those two lots. The last page is just kind of show you what it'll look like with the line gone, property line gone.
Any questions on that? Pretty straightforward.
I move that we approve combining lots 3 and 4 with lot number 2, Plat C, Summit Creek.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Sorry, we're not combining it with 2, right? It's just 3 and 4
3 and 4.
Did I
are
say
becoming
2?
one lot,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Combining
Just
lots 3 and
4.
become one lot. However you want to say it, sorry.
So how come we've got lot 2 here?
Yeah, on the,
That's what we're combining.
well, it says on the.
Oh,
thing
with,
we're
with lot
combining,
2, it's semantics a little bit. It's,
But 2
no,
is
they're
separate,
still,
and then 3 and 4.
yeah,
Okay.
so good, thanks for the clarification there. All in favor of the proposal to combine lots 3 and 4, Summit Creek, into a single lot? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very well, thank you. Okay, thanks, Ben.
I appreciate it.
Very good. All right,
Thanks, guys.
thank you. Next item on the agenda, Larry, if you'd walk us through and lead us into discussion a little bit of the work, what you've been doing here, having to do with the accessory building being an ordinance to identify it in amending our public facilities district.
Okay. I don't remember if we all got a copy of Chapter 9 Public Facilities District in our last meeting, but there is a copy here, pages 51, 52, and 53, that covers the Public Facilities District. And then there's a handout there that I wrote with some notes and recommendations. The first part there, public buildings and uses, is just a copy of 1092 that's at the bottom of page 51. In a note, and I guess you may have put that note there, Wayne. In italics, there's a sentence at the end of A to add to that saying, in a public facilities district, the accessory building can be a standalone structure with no other structures on the property. And then just more information that this ordinance refers to churches, libraries, public assembly, memorials, monuments, cemeteries, and so on. Some questions that we probably need to discuss and have answered to change that is from the first head note, 10-9-1 on the intent. It says public facilities as used throughout this title means facilities classified as main and accessory buildings, and uses in 10.9.2 of this section. If you go down to 10.9.2A, it says that this includes parking, storage, garage, maintenance, heating facility. The question I have, and I guess we need to discuss that, is accessory buildings is already identified in there. Comments or thoughts?
I wonder what the title of that paragraph A, accessory buildings and uses, but then it defines them and does not include a.
That's
it says
true.
Garage
It doesn't
storage,
say.
but it doesn't. I just found it a little bit lacking to my liking with wording that would also define an accessory building.
Okay.
So,
That was my thought, and maybe others feel different.
So you think it should have more descriptions of possible build, like restrooms, public restrooms, or I'm thinking of the park maybe?
Yes. That's a good point.
Postal mailboxes possibly?
Yeah, we don't know what the future is going to bring. We may want another over on that side of this. Of course, now they have post office facilities at the bottom of Summit Creek already.
Yeah,
correct?
they have their own.
Yeah, we have mail facility there. It's not residential. So,
How much more capacity does ours have down here?
I
And
think
is
we
it,
are almost
is it
full.
expandable?
We're at 150%.
How do we expand that?
yeah,
Jody has talked to the postmaster in Salem and asked if we could put boxes here under the eaves, like a section. He does not want to. He wants them put across the street from the church, or from the post office, or the mailboxes now. I'm not sure if it's west or northwest.
Like further down the road and somewhere in that area?
maybe further to the, from what I've heard, further to the north
Okay,
from where, but a separate, another facility, but separate,
separate.
But he,
but similar design.
Well, that might be handy and easy for them, but it's not very facilitating for the public or for the.
Does the city have property in that
no.
vicinity?
No,
That would create us a really big problem for the
Yeah.
city. We'd have to buy property, right?
well, we just would put it up the top, just off of the, would have to make space there where the blacktop is, where the asphalt is for another facility up on top there. It would, maybe it would create a little bit of a traffic issue where people are picking up mail on both sides. But there's another related issue too, and I don't know where that will go. We own, there's an easement or maybe property that the city owns that goes down, it goes on the south side where you drive into the mail facility, it goes down to give access to that lower property. And there's been talk, when the Knott's property was being talked about being developed, and that's all that flat land down
Right.
there, about them using that, cutting a road through there to get down to that property. Obviously, that creates another set of problems, but there's some discussion and interest in trying to maybe develop part of that into a commercial zone down on the flat part there. And potentially then relocating the mailbox down there as well if there's whoever's developing that, if that's an access that's being used to then move mailboxes down below in that flat area. So,
So there is a section of ground in that spot
yeah, but the city
that the
owns.
city owns that would work in that
Yeah.
spot. Because that would be where we'd see some pretty large expansion if that happened.
Yes, yeah.
Another spot would be over by the new steak center. Is there a property in that area that there's nothing there?
No, not the
Not
city
unless you
owns.
go
So
up
not
the
city
hill.
owned.
But I don't know of the access. Quite a bit of property there by Chris Helvey. And then those other roads that we've had trouble with because of isn't there property back in that area that the city owns?
Way
Yes.
up on top.
Yeah,
It's-
up on top. There's no access to it probably.
There's gulches that the
Right.
city owns, yeah. So,
I bet you the post office won't bring it up there. That's my guess. They might.
I don't know how they have the right to say they won't bring mail within so many miles of a home.
Yeah, they used to bring it
When
to
they're
your
paved
house.
roads.
yeah. So something, as the city grows, I mean, a lot of the growth is gonna be Silver Creek. When this this farm property gets developed, they would probably have enough lots there that justify another mail facility somewhere in that
Yeah.
area too. And it would be up to them then, as they develop that, to donate that to the city for a mail facility. So there's a number of options that can be in play at doing that. But I think it would, be good to add some of those in A here to further maybe word it to include, but not just some other ideas of what would be considered accessory building, but not the exclusion of other kinds of.
Would that be an A or B? Would that be civic?
Well, the buildings and uses are A. The B, I don't know, I guess it could probably go.
Yeah, I think it would be civic.
Where do you think it'd be better?
Either B
Under B.
or civic.
Okay.
So post office.
Restrooms
Restrooms.
would be,
Let's say, yeah, restrooms, mail facility. Anything else that comes to mind that we ought to maybe add to that?
Maybe the post office really ought to go under B. Governmental.
governmental.
Probably so. Maybe do when it says by the general public, comma, such as mail facility. Just as an example.
Or city offices, fire station. All those would be governmental, correct?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Maybe put F, put restrooms, because it's connected with parks. Maybe put restrooms under that category. In the preamble, that under 10.9.2, the word only kind of bothers me a little bit. It says buildings and land shall be used and buildings shall be designated, erected, altered, moved, or maintained in a public facilities district only for uses set forth as follows.
Maybe
Maybe just
cross
take
out.
out only.
Yep. So it doesn't limit us.
Yes.
The second item that I wanted to discuss is setbacks and configurations. We have setbacks that Wayne gave us before that shows all the setbacks for all the different residential designations, R11 or R140, R12 or R180, R119, and R1-I PUD and R2-PUD. It has all the setbacks there. And Wayne suggested that we add a public facilities category in that section of the regulations. But in my mind, it kind of conflicts with the yard regulations set forth on page 52 in the middle part B, where the setbacks for buildings are 75 feet, side and rear. And I don't know if that conflicts with, because it talks also about public facilities similar to the area in which the zoning occurs. And so setbacks, for example, if it's in an R12, you've got setbacks there, but that's completely different than this. And again, it's referring mostly to the entire property, but it could also include the buildings. And I don't know that we want to set the buildings back 75 feet from the side and rear.
The accessory buildings, you're saying?
Yes.
I mean, because when you look at accessory buildings in a residential area,
I know. Yeah.
There was some thought of comment made at the last meeting, I can't remember who made it, but that to try to keep them comparable to a nearby residential district.
Right.
They might be in to keep some consistency to that. I kind of like that thought, leave it flexible, but maybe to the degree possible, follow that with whatever is an adjoining residential district with setbacks. But I don't have a strong feeling about it, but just a thought that seemed to maybe would work.
Is there a way to word it so we were to take each thing individually, like a conditional use for each type of facility,
Yes.
instead of having setbacks or even having that in there?
That was a comment that we made before, is it could be the setbacks for public facilities district would be left open and just to be determined by the planning commission and or city council on a case-by-case basis.
I kind of like that, because you think about a lot of these buildings, like we're talking about putting a maintenance shed at the park. We need to just put it in an area that's not intrusive and works well with
But
what's
still
there.
accessible to our maintenance personnel. I mean, we don't want
Right,
to stick
and
it down in
accessible.
the trees where they can't get to it.
Right.
Right.
But
But
we
if,
don't also want it right there by the monument
right.
and so.
Or by the pavilion, or, unless it was something that was usable for the pavilion while it's being used.
If there were trees and they were close to a property line, that's something we would want to tuck that back
Right.
into
Right.
trees, and it might be
If
close
it's
to a
still
property line,
accessible.
but it's of no consequence,
Right.
it's not something right next to somebody's window on the other side of
Right.
it, looking to it. So, that certainly would be one way that we could address that.
And then would we address it in the accessory building code, or would we put it in the public facilities district code?
I
Maybe
think,
both.
I think both.
yeah, both, and leave it maybe with an asterisk with a note at the bottom of the schedule. They
Right.
indicate to be determined at time of construction, or whatever wording we wanted, or variable according to planning commission and city council determination.
So these recommendations for these types of buildings, are they going to come from city maintenance people? Are they going to come maybe from fire department, or they come from anybody? Parks and,
Usually
it'll
they're
come.
city things, so they'll come through the city staff. If it's a fire department who's making a recommendation, then it would be them, but it could be, could be us if we're looking at a.
or maybe it could be a committee. I mean, maybe Parks and Trails Committee would recommend a small shed there by the switchback access where you could put in some chains or other types of materials that would benefit the maintenance people in taking care of that.
Yes. In fact, today it came up in conversation, not having to do with accessory buildings, but things that the city, Parks, Trails, and Recreation want to put some bollards up there, which have been approved on the switchbacks. But the configuration of them and other things that they want to do with the trail up there determined that we have this technical review committee, which is myself and Jody and Corbett, then would see that site plan that Parks, Trails, and Recreation would provide to us and make a determination then. There's not setbacks involved or things like that. It's just a project that they want to do. But then that committee would be the ones who would make decisions on approval of that. Essentially, it's the same committee that approves the site plans for the house, for part of at least some review of site plans for residential construction.
Which committee approves accessory buildings in general?
The same,
Just
Yeah.
the
Same committee.
same committee.
Same.
Yeah. So.
But I mean, the bollards and the trail things they're not really public buildings or.
No, and they wouldn't fall under this. It's just,
But it
it's one of
might
those
be-
things that there's an approval process, from city staff to look at that and kind of give their final okay to it. So, while we're on the topic, let me share. I've been asked to take over Craig Northrup's responsibilities having to do with ordinance enforcement for the time being. And there's a lot of authority that's given to the zoning enforcement officer. In fact, he has primary responsibility for site plan reviews. And so some of the site plans where I look at them and don't see any issues, I've been reviewing them myself instead of calling you all in to help in that process. And they all go to Corbett then, and he's the one that issues a building permit and so forth on it. So there's a lot of authority that our ordinance gives the zoning enforcement officer to enforce zoning matters in the city. So I've taken that on for the time being. So anyway, just.
As if you don't have enough to do, right?
Right, yeah, my retirement plans are on hold.
Retirement.
So,
Or unpaid retirement.
yeah, so far, they're.
Are they talking about paying you a little bit?
Yeah,
Oh, good.
yeah.
But
Well,
you
I've
still
I've
need to
denied it in the past. I'll take responsibility for some of that. I didn't mind doing it and so
Well, if you
forth.
get over like 30 hours or something, you should be paid.
Yeah.
for it. I mean,
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
So, anyway, I just share that with y'all because we've only had a few site plans turned in, so there haven't been a lot, but that's kind of why we stopped calling you in to help with that. If they're detailed and questionable, I'll call you in on them, but some of them are
I
not.
thought maybe you just didn't like me anymore.
We
No,
don't want to
that has
speak
nothing,
honesty.
that has nothing to do with this, Everett.
He doesn't like me, but that's not.
Down on, could continuous setbacks and configurations. At the bottom of page 52, it talks about height regulations. And it says would include chimneys, spires, cupolas, towers, flagpoles, water tanks, monuments. And monument is, to me, is more like an accessory than a building. I don't know. Other mechanical appurtenances, that's a good word, I guess. Located upon or constituted as a part of the main building, so,
But you look at the height,
yes.
they seem to compensate for those things, because the height is 50 feet above finished grade. And it says except for church spires, which may raise to 70 feet above finished grade.
Do churches have to meet the 35-foot height limit?
No.
No.
Just residential structures.
Okay.
So,
You know, in B3, we talked about the adjacent district
Yes.
already in here. So, I mean, we've got a parallel situation. Now, we could probably add some wording to talk about accessory buildings and their location would be the same as the adjacent residential district. So that if they're 5 feet away from the property line, the public facilities to be 5 feet away from the property line. If they have to be 30 feet away from the road, the public facilities needs to be 30 feet away from the road.
and that's, I agree with that, but I think we need to have some exceptions there, depending upon circumstances.
We don't want to ruin sight of, sight lines in terms of traffic.
Right.
The public
No,
facilities
that's
get
critical,
out,
yeah.
I mean, that's part of the 30 feet.
Maybe if we word it, as you said, that the setbacks and need to be, I don't know if I want to use the word the same as an adjoining residential district. However, planning commission, city council can make exceptions to that if circumstances warrant. Build that into it, but that's the guide that we have in that.
Well, and that would be covered already when we say determined by planning commission or city council on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
If we use that
Right.
approach. Now, what I'm suggesting maybe is we change it to conform to an adjoining residential district. Oh, but exceptions can be allowed by planning commission and city council.
How different is that from just a variance?
I'd rather not go to variance because the variance is out of our hands. Then we have an attorney who comes in and
That's right.
hears those variance cases.
Yeah.
I'd rather not put this in his hands or her hands. Keep a little more control of it within
Yeah.
the city.
Well, I know the monument, previous mayor Lawrenson up by the park is probably less than 10 feet. Or is it 10 feet from the parking? It's right next to it.
It's probably 30 feet from the road,
Right, but then.
but from the gravel parking area, yeah, it's
We're
10,
talking
15
about
feet.
property lines.
Right.
Yeah, it's,
So it's probably,
so that's an exception and hasn't caused any consternation that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
The pumping station down by Harper's is very close to the property line, maybe right on the property line. I don't know. But it's not critical because the only people that drive by there are the Harpers or whoever buys that place, I guess.
do all you feel comfortable with that wording where it'll conform to an adjoining residential district, but exceptions can be made by
Approved
planning
from
commission or city council?
I like that. Keeps the door open.
Yeah.
I have a question on 93A, where it talks about the church, and it says that churches have to have a minimum of 3 acres. And I wonder if that might be a little unfair to a very small
Small
little
church.
church that, might have 10 people attending, and maybe it should be something with how many people are attending a church and the size that they need for parking and stuff.
The issue too is with a church, you gotta provide parking. So that needs to be included in the overall size.
Yeah, by the time you put a building on 1 acre, there's not very much room left over for parking. I guess you could find a place for 10 or 12,
Yeah.
depending on, of course, when you do the setbacks on a 1 acre property, you've got what, about 200 feet? And if your church building is to the setbacks on the side, there's no room left for parking. Maybe 2 acres there would be. Use the other area. I don't know.
Remember, 1093A is the minimum size for a church is 3 acres.
That's what she's talking about.
You want to change it to 1?
I'm thinking maybe there will be a little teeny church with 10 people.
We
I don't
could easily see that. I see your point with that, because we're used to seeing what
We're thinking of LDS
Same,
churches
yeah.
in Utah.
and typically those are 5 acre, I would bet, or 4 or 5 acre, those are pretty big sized lots. But we could see that, something we ought to consider, or at least think about. You'll see those small churches in different areas that
I
They're-
think
they're
I'm
in basements
uncomfortable with that. Basically because we're talking about assuming a particular size of a congregation. Congregations can grow,
right.
so they only have 1 acre because the limit was 50 people. And now the congregation is 100. And now they're no longer in compliance with the 1 acre that they purchased for their church.
Don't
So that bothers me.
With parking and,
do public buildings, I mean, they usually have a limit of, like when you go into a restaurant, it will usually say how many people are allowed to occupy the room at a time.
Well, the
Fire
state code
code.
dictates size of building, how much parking goes with it. And then cities typically add or subtract, or actually they don't subtract, they add to that if they feel like it's necessary. But they can't have less than what state code dictates.
And churches are limited to how many people they can seat. I don't know.
yeah, they have a fire marshal kind of
Yeah.
standard requirement inside. Is there a need to put, a limit or a minimum size? I mean, it's gonna be, I don't know, as a church, I'm just thinking out loud, as a church starts out, little one, may have few congregations or limited congregation, but if they want to expand, then and accommodate for parking, then we're gonna have to either acquire more space, another lot or whatever adjoining, or move, yeah. And that's gonna be on them, it's not gonna be on the city. But I can see if, if some little small denomination wants to come in and they've gotta have 3 acres minimum, it kind of seems to me unfair, but I kind of thinking like along what Lori's thinking about. Let them determine that, and that's their own fate, whatever
That's their risk. they're
that
assuming.
happens. Yeah, I don't know.
You see a lot of churches, they take one section of a strip mall. There's 4 stalls out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But it
So-
usually isn't the problem, well, at least. in
Usually they
Utah,
have, well, and they do have shared parking typically in those situations.
Well,
Yeah.
and
So
most of
Sundays
those-
they're not
most-
using
That's
them.
right. Yeah, Sundays,
Yeah.
the businesses are usually closed. Now, if you go to a different state, maybe a problem, because a lot of businesses are open. But for us, probably.
any other thoughts? You had a
I
little bit of
think we could-
reservation.
I think we could leave it at 3 acres. And again, we don't like to look at variance situations. But that may be a good variance situation for a group to look at. Justifiably so. Maybe, I don't know.
And request a variance,
Yeah.
you say?
I think that's probably a good use for that.
And again, I don't remember all the boxes you have to check to qualify for a variance, but it seems to me that if you were a group and you had a small group that you wanted to have a little, you might ask for a variance for that. The only other item,
So we would leave it at 3 acres and then the variance,
They want.
if they want to, they would
if it comes up.
have it come
Yeah.
before a variance board.
Not that it will ever come up, but.
Right? Hey, you never know.
Well, we still have 50% of the properties that are currently residential. Is that correct?
Probably with the farmland that's vacant.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And if I were going to build a little church, I probably would build it down next to one of the churches that are already
Then you could overflow into their parking
Right?
lot.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if you're Seventh-day Adventist, it would be a
Oh,
mistake.
there you go.
That's right. Yeah, they'd probably go for
We
that.
could
Or
share,
Jewish.
The church would say,
Yeah,
yeah, we'll
Jewish.
share with you.
we could share the building.
Yeah.
Currently in the code just talks about those, and we talked about adding some entities into those. I'll make a note of that. Final site plan review.
It's part of the existing
10-9.
code.
10.95.
1095. Oh, I wrote it down there. Everything's still subject to site plan, so I think we're
Yeah.
safe if we need to take care of that. So you'd like me to incorporate these ideas, and bring it back next month, go from there?
Would you please?
Absolutely.
I don't think 12, though, is the right section. We're looking at 10, probably.
Did I say 12?
Well,
It
no,
says
in our
12.
ordinance it says 12. It was
It
an old,
says 12.
an old,
And the 10.95 is
Oh,
on
okay.
chapter 12.
so change that to 11, to 10. The site plan review for, same as the residential.
It'd be chapter 10,
Yeah. Well, title 10.
title 10. instead of chapter.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, this is a dumb question. Well, why in chapter 9 are the sections 10?
Say that again?
This is chapter 9, public facilities history, and the sections start with 10.
Oh,
Why? Shouldn't they
Yeah,
start
I
with
wondered
9?
that too.
Is it Title 10, Chapter 9?
That could be, that could
That
be.
was a guess.
Yeah.
So.
Good guess, Maureen.
Title 10, Chapter 9, but it is.
Yeah.
Huh.
Ah,
Yeah.
because the ninth. And the zoning regulations that talk,
Yeah. Title 10, Chapter
Yeah.
Title 10.
Okay, now, Wayne. The one we just changed says chapter 12. So it's title
Mhm.
10, chapter 12, the way this reads right now.
On site plan review.
9. Right. I think we just put in there Title 10. Because the whole title deals with all the
Okay, so
zoning.
instead of saying chapter, it's
Title.
saying title
Yes.
10.
Yes.
okay.
All right.
Now, what about under off-street parking? It says chapter 16 of this title. Signs, chapter 13. I did not review those, so I don't know if that's still appropriate.
Let me see if 16.
Oh, how
We
many
do have one.
chapters are there in title 10?
There's, 16 does deal with parking and loading facilities. And
What
then
does 12 deal with?
Chapter 12 or Title 12?
Chapter 12
Chapter 12,
of title 10.
yes. It deals with site plan review. So that's likely what
So then
this
that's,
is implying.
it's right.
So that needs to stay.
Yeah. But if we're changing things,
We've got other chapters identified. We've got signs is chapter 13 in this title. Off-street parking is chapter 16 in this title. Site plan review is chapter 12 in this title. So we are consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So leave it.
So
we'll leave it.
Yeah, that's got to stay.
One other we didn't cover, back on yard regulations, page 52B, number 3, it does say driveways shall be located not less than 10 feet, and parking areas not less than the side yard setback of the adjacent district, so that's already covered.
Right. And most of the zones, the driveway setback's 10 feet. But R119, I think,
it's 5 or 7.5
Yeah.
or.
those smaller lots are closer, but all the R2s, R1s, all the PUDs are 10 feet. The driveway has to be 10 feet away.
One thing that we're encountering a little bit with driveways is, R119 is 7.5 feet,
Yeah.
and the Mountainville overlay zone is 5 feet.
So there's not a consistency there.
No, it's different. One thing we're encountering is driveways versus the pad in front of the garage. Where does the driveway end? Where does that pad? Because people want to extend that pad over close to the property line. And we've had a a few issues come up lately with that between a couple of neighbors. And so we tried to be flexible. The driveway is certainly at the main road entrance to the lot. And as it gets further back into the lot area of the home, we're allowing a pad to be extended out towards the property line more than the driveway setback.
Well, it can't go too far, it'll be on somebody else's property.
Right, no, it can't go beyond the setback. Or the property line, excuse me, can't go beyond the property line, but it can go beyond the setback of
And
the
then, and
house.
that's when I built my house. You know, the garage enters from the side, and so we go in, it has to be at least 10 feet wide, otherwise more than that on the main one. But then as soon as I get to the front plane of the house, then it goes further towards the property line. So that when I
So you
got
can't
out
curve.
of the garage, I got room to back out and turn to go out.
Okay.
So that's what Wayne's really talking about, is you get beyond that front plane of the house, which has to be, that's the setback. Well, there's 30 feet or 50 feet, and then you can go make it wider from that point out.
And some of, that's I say, some have made an argument that past the driveway stage, even though they may not be past the front of the house, try to be careful with it, but accommodate them at the same time with this parking pad out front of the garage.
Can you put a parking pad up to the property line? Or does that be
Yes.
5 feet or?
You can.
Right.
There's nothing in our ordinances
Huh.
that says that you cannot.
Well, isn't concrete,
There was.
isn't it considered landscaping almost? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
it can just be a hard surface landscape.
So,
You who shall remain unnamed. Oh, I have to share this.
With
I
no
was in the
name.
temple. My normal assignment. And you know who came through the veil? Voldemort.
Wait, Voldemort?
Voldemort. You know who Voldemort is? Harry Potter?
Yeah.
The medieval man.
Yeah.
There was a person came through with the name
That name?
Voldemort. The last name was Voldemort.
Wow.
But did you
I'm
crack
not
up?
lying.
Did you crack up?
No, I
Was he two-faced?
couldn't tell. It was a fan.
Wow.
We did baptisms for the dead. I took, years ago, our daughter, baptized her, and one of the names was Cinderella.
Oh.
Serious.
I guess that's all I have. I'll work on that.
Okay,
Okay.
good progress. Thank you. Very well. Anything else under, well, let me give you a little miscellaneous report just for your information. If you don't know, the Adams have filed a lawsuit against the Fuges to recover damages that they claim were incurred by them with the Fuges injunction in the very beginning of the construction. And that's been pending and for a while. So that case is going to be heard on May 31st. A couple of days ago, they had a pre-trial conference about it with both sides and with the judge. It was a Zoom conference. And both of them have filed, Fuges are representing themselves again, and Adams have an attorney representing them. I don't know how much damages the Adams are seeking. That's never been made known. This is a private thing between these two parties, the city is not involved in it at all.
They're asking for not enough.
So it was interesting because both sides have filed motions. The Fujas filed a motion of summary judgment, which means that with all the facts that are there, they're asking the judge to dismiss the case. Ruling of summary judgment, dismissing the case. The judge started off this meeting saying now if a motion of summary judgment is granted, then there's no trial. So the judge said, I've made a decision already on the motion for summary judgment, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. Okay. He says, we'll have oral arguments before trial starts on the 31st. Right there, he's saying, we're
change
going
my
to trial.
mind. Yeah.
You know, so I'm dismissing the motion of summary judgment. It was kind of I don't know if he did that purposefully or what, but up until then, he was thinking, you're wondering, oh, I wonder what he's going to do. You know, is he going to dismiss the case or not? And then he says, we'll have that before trial. Right there, it tells you he's already decided against the motion of summary judgment, and it's going to go to trial. So, but he's going to allow some verbal arguments if they want to make them the morning before trial starts, he said.
You think he's hoping that they will settle it
Probably.
before trial?
No, because I think he knows. The judge who's handling this is the very first judge that the Fujas got when they tried to take the Adams to court. And
The one that said, you are not a reliable
That's right.
witness
That's
because of this, and probably this.
yeah, same judge. So it'll be interesting to see.
That's,
So that's, is
that's
that,
not a reliable witness.
has that been going on now,
Really?
3 or 4 years?
No, not that case. It's been
No, I
maybe
mean
for a
the
couple of
whole-
years.
the
The
whole-
whole-
oh, yeah.
Because the Adams
Anyway.
started building.
Yeah, they got the building permit July, I think it was 19.
That's almost 4 years
Remember,
ago.
Joe?
Oh, I
Well,
was-
19. It was
probably
19.
4
It
years ago.
was 19.
Yeah, because they were right before us.
Okay. So,
We were March of 20.
Well, that's one miscellaneous item. You have more?
no, that's all. That's all the miscellaneous I have. I'll take a motion for,
I will move that we adjourn.
I
Okay.
second it.
very well. Set 5 after 8.
So we started at 7 after 7, and that means less than an hour.
Let me go back. You gonna shut it off, Lori?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so we have cameras.